This is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Patriots Drive Podcast. Today, I'm joined with a special guest, Alex Barth. He just got off another live mock draft. I'm sure some of you guys were watching that, so appreciate Alex being on here. But how's it going today, Alex?
It's good. It's best time of year, isn't it? Just mock drafts on mock drafts on mock drafts, and it was 85 degrees here, 90 degrees here in Massachusetts, so that was fun. So I can't complain. The
best thing about mock drafts is everyone's different, right? And we're all going to still be shocked when they take a third-round offensive guard and with their first pick. But hey, it's all fun and games. So, but today we're going to come at you guys with a full 7-round mock draft. We're going to have trades included. We'll talk about a ton of prospects that we're interested in, where we think the Patriots are most likely to go with some of these picks, and our thoughts. And then, Carlos, 3 shows today. Alex is a juggernaut. He is definitely putting in the grind, or he's definitely grinding this time of year. So, but let's hop right into it. Jumping right into it, Patriots are going to have the 14th overall pick. Alex, let me ask you before we get into this, how likely do you think it is New England drafts at pick 14?
I actually think it's somewhat likely. I do. I don't think they're trading up. I don't think they're trading up because the reality is they're not going to be able to move to 13 because it's the Jets. The Jets aren't going to help them. I really don't see Houston trading that 12th pick just because they have so many needs. It makes sense for them to pick there. Tennessee at 11 is probably the highest you move up, and then you're moving in the top 10, so it gets incredibly expensive. It's going to depend how the board falls, right? But I think with so many of their needs projected to go right around that range, I think they should have a player they're comfortable with at 14.
And I look at the board and I think cornerback, offensive tackle, possibly receiver. I don't know if there's a guy that they need to trade up for. There's going to be quality guys at all those positions at pick 14 that they're going to be able to snatch up. So I agree with you. Trading into the top 10 is going to be very expensive. We've seen teams do it, multiple times, and it's costing them future first. It's costing them a second, a third. It's too expensive for me to want to move up there. And there's not that one guy that I believe you trade up for that makes this Patriots team a contender right off the bat. And that's why I think we're in a good spot at 14 drafting there and think that they can, stand pat and be pretty patient and see how the board falls and then do what Bill Belichick loves to do and possibly trade down to get more picks in the draft and still grab one of those key starters for them.
Right. Yeah. If anything, I think it's a move back and, not to get too ahead. I think the move up is in the second round. I don't think it's in the first round.
We've seen it in the second round way too much too. I mean, last year for Christian Barmore, Bill likes to do that more than in the first round.
I think it's 4 years in a row. I know Miguel Benson from PatCap has the stat. And I keep saying, I don't know, but I know he has the stat, not looking it up. So I should probably look it up, right? But it's been like 3 or 4 years in a row now.
Yeah, it's something that I think that they're going to heavily look into. So let's jump right into it. We'll probably just let this roll straight to our pick since we just discussed that it's not going to be likely that New England is going to be trading up. So I'm going to turn this down just a little so we can see who the first couple of picks are. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud going off the board first. Coming up here at 14, we'll take a look at the board and then discuss trades. So right here, just looking at the board, what position are you thinking New England would target the most?
I think it's going to be tackle or corner. I kind of go back and forth on this. The last 2 years, they've taken the biggest hole on the depth chart, regardless of positional value in the first round. Did it with the quarterback in 2021. Did it at guard, obviously, last year. So I don't think they're going receiver. I know everybody wants them to get that number 1 receiver. You show me the unquestionable number 1 receiver in this draft, and I'll tell you that the Patriots should take him. I don't think he's here. Maybe it's JSN, maybe, but they also don't take Ohio State guys. And 2, what they really need, the reason you all want that number 1 receiver is explosiveness. He's not explosive. He's a route runner. He's a possession receiver. So I think the last 3, 4, 5 years, the wide receiver class have all just been so good that so many people just assume that's the norm. And if there's a receiver on the board at 14, he's going to be a potential, immediate Pro Bowl or All-Pro, because that's been the case. for the last 3 or 4 years. Massive slap back to reality this year. That's not the case. And they have enough depth at receiver. They have so much depth at receiver, from Devontae Parker to Kendrick Bourne to Juju Smith-Schuster. You have to let Tyquan Thornton play this year. You just used a top 50 pick on him. It is way too early to give up on him. So to me, it's corner, it's tackle, and then I think edge. Edge is the sleeper here to me, and it looks like we just missed Nolan Smith. He would be the guy. So if not him, not edge at 14, maybe trade back, but mainly tackle or corner.
Yeah, I look at corner, and I just think that this Patriots team under Bill Belichick has been the best when they have a number one guy that can lock down number one receivers and really take away a half of the field, take away the Jamar Chases. And you're never going to stop Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but you're going to be able to limit them. You're going to be able to compete with the Garrett Wilsons, the Stephon Diggs in this AFC East. So to me, it looks, where does New England need to build? And I always think Bill Belichick has liked to build from the cornerback room, and he's always had a guy like that. Now, the other argument to that is he's always found guys that are undrafted or late round picks that have panned out and been really good. J.C. Jackson, Jonathan Jones, or guys like that. But you need length at the cornerback position nowadays. I love Marcus Jones and Jack Jones, but there were times last year where they're kind of getting mossed by some of these bigger receivers that were able to go up and catch the ball over them. And it's not a knock on them. It's just when you're going up against a 6'4", 6'3" receiver, either you're giving up length, you're giving up height. It's harder to make plays on those jump balls. So for me, I've always leaned to cornerback, and I think that there's some great options here, not only in the first round, but in the second round, to grab a guy that has the length, that has the speed, and has the ability to play a lot of press man coverage like Bill Belichick's going to want him to.
One thing I try to remind everybody of, especially during this draft year, because this draft is so segmented by position, right? People say, well, is this a good draft? Is this a bad draft? Sometimes you can answer that question. This year, you really can't answer that question because, well, what position are you talking about? Tight end, corner, great draft. Receiver, safety, linebacker, no. It's really like below average. So when it's segmented like that, right, there's still teams that are going to want to fill needs. Not every first-round pick is a first-round talent, and not every first-round talent is a first-round pick. Like, think about it. What are the odds that every single year there would be 32 players coming into the draft who all hit that first-round talent threshold, who all happen to fit the desires of the 32 teams picking in that round, right? This year specifically, when it comes to corner, there are going to be first-round talents, I think, going early in the third round, like as late as early in the third round. At 46, I certainly believe the Patriots will be able to get a first-round talent at cornerback. So to the point, like how they like having that number one corner, I'm sure they would love a guy like Christian Gonzalez. And to me, I don't know if this is like realistic, not realistic, because like the unrealistic players are obviously Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, right? I consider Christian Gonzalez unrealistic. I don't know why he's not a consensus top 10 pick at this point.
I agree.
But enough people do that I'll say among the realistic players, if Christian Gonzalez is on the board at 14, I am sprinting that card to the table.
For sure.
But as much as I think they'd like to have a guy like that, and I think Devin Witherspoon can play and Joey Porter can play, you can get Emmanuel Forbes, you trade back. You can get Julius Brents, Tyreek Stevenson, right, in the second round. Most years, Julius Brents is going to be a first-round corner. That's just the reality of it. So the idea that, oh, you're waiting until the second round, well, it's all sort of relative.
Yeah, it's the corners in this class are, I look down at every round and there's guys that I would love to pick up. And that's why I don't know if there's that need to get that number one corner. The other thing is Bill Belichick has a track record. He might be the best at drafting cornerbacks. Marcus Jones, Jack Jones last year, he finds the guys and he can develop. You want to talk about positions he can't develop, you know, maybe people look at receiver, stuff like that. He seems to find more late round cornerbacks, either undrafted or on day 3, that pan out in this system and then go elsewhere. The JC Jacksons, and he struggled and stuff, but go elsewhere and don't find that success. So to me, it's so hard to be like, oh, I do love Joey Porter. I think Joey Porter is a great pick. I would love him at 14, obviously with his length, the way he tested, but you just mentioned it. Emmanuel Forbes at 46 could could be, it will be great value. You got Julius Brents, who's 6'3". He's almost like Tyreek Woolen was last year, where he's just a freakish athlete that is long and lengthy, and he might not pan out like Tyreek Woolen, but he's got the intangibles like that. Then you got guys even in the 4th and 5th round that are going to go, that Darius Rush, Corey Trice. There's going to be guys all throughout this cornerback class that I think it's very, very easy that New England can draft and develop. So I'm not so sure that it's going to be corner. I would love for it to be. Deonte Banks obviously ran a very nice 40, and a lot of people are excited about him. But I think that maybe the biggest hole on this team too is protecting Mac Jones. And Trent Brown's not a long-term option as of right now. He's only on for one more year. Obviously, Isaiah Wynn's not coming back. How much are you going to rely on Riley Reif as your right tackle or Calvin Anderson? I don't know. So maybe for me, tackle is the one spot that I think is the most realistic, because there's really not an anchor long-term tackle for New England on roster right now.
Yeah, and that's, I think, where the tiebreaker comes in between tackle and corner too. You hear like draft a year ahead.
Yep.
Marcus Jones, John Jones, Jack Jones, right, still under contract. You don't have that here. I also think there's got to be an element of whoever the quarterback is, he deserves better than what he has right now. And obviously tackle is going to help with that. So we do still have one of the top tier guys here, I see. So this is the exact same situation I had in the mock I just did on Patriots Beat, where, do we trade down a couple spots, risk Broderick Jones falling? Are we okay going to that second tier of Darnell Wright, Antoine Harrison, DeJuan Jones? Or do we just take Broderick Jones and get the guy?
To me, if there's a guy on the board, I think you take him. And I think I have Broderick Jones as my clear-cut number one. His size, his athleticism, playing in the SEC. I would love to take Broderick Jones. Now, Darnell Wright's growing on me. And then obviously Anton Harrison and DeJuan Jones with their size are people that you can't pass up. But to me, I want New England to take an athletic guard or an athletic tackle like Broderick Jones or Darnell Wright. So for me, Broderick Jones is a guy that I would be totally comfortable taking here at pick 14.
Yeah, I'd be comfortable if the Patriots took him too. I have him as my second tackle. I like Paris Johnson better than him just because I feel weird when I say this, that Paris Johnson is the high floor player. Broderick Jones is the high ceiling player, because it makes it sound like Broderick Jones isn't very good right now and Paris Johnson has no upside. That's not the case. You're really splitting hairs between these two. If somebody has Broderick Jones one, if somebody has Paris Johnson one, you're right. Either way you have it, you're right. I'm sure you have your reasons. It's more kind of what you look for in the position than anything else. I think they need to be concerned about winning in 2023. I think they need to win this year. Paris Johnson is probably going to be the better player this year. That being said, I still think Broderick Jones is going to be a pretty good player this year. And I think he has more upside in the end. Rather Paris Johnson, I'm not going to walk away holding my head if they take Broderick Jones. That would be a great, great pick.
And I kind of agree with you with what you're saying, how Broderick Jones is not going to be as good right now. He's a projection. His athleticism, and he hasn't played as many snaps as Paris Johnson has. And Paris Johnson has played both sides of the line and guard. So you're talking about a safe pick. It's Paris Johnson Jr., and there's no doubt that he can come in and play starting tackle right away. Now, I don't doubt that Broderick Jones can come in and play starting tackle right away. I don't think that's the case, but when you're looking 2 or 3 years down the road, which I know New England really can't do that, but I think that Broderick Jones can really be a Pro Bowl type of tackle with the way he moves, his athleticism, his size. And not that Paris Johnson can't, but in the draft, I always want to look for what the potential is. And I think if you keep Mac Jones here or whoever the quarterback's going to be, establishing a guy like Broderick Jones is going to be a huge asset for them. So for me, I think Broderick Jones is a pick here at 14.
And the thing about a guy like Broderick Jones too, we talk about this with receivers and running backs and corners and safeties and linebackers. Like, if they draft this guy, they're going to be able to have fun with him. They're going to be able to get creative with him, right? We love saying that with players. You don't really say that with offensive linemen. He's going to be a fun player. They're going to scheme some stuff up for him. Broderick Jones, with that athleticism, you watch how they used him at Georgia. He can move around. They're going to be able to have some fun with him. There's not many tackles in the league you can say that about. Like, Trent Williams comes to mind, although I hate some of the tackle eligible motion stuff the Niners do with him. Just makes me puke. You motion him away from the play and then you run away from anyway. But if Broderick Jones maxes out, he's potentially that kind of player. So there's some excitement there.
Yeah, and I know Bill Belichick does it all the time, and there's value on this board. You could easily get an extra third round pick, trade down, and say Broderick Jones doesn't go. Then a lot of Patriots fans would be happy taking Anton Harrison, Darnell Wright. But for me, take the guy that you need, and in my opinion, that's Broderick Jones right here. He's clear cut, but better than both of these guys. Probably not by far, but I have him ranked higher. This is a big need on your offensive line right now. And you got question marks about Mac Jones that are going to be coming up if he doesn't perform. So at least give him a fair chance by protecting him and then let the Patriots fans see what he can do pushing the ball down the field.
And then also, if you need another guy to replace him next year, hey, that guy's blind side's protected. You don't have to worry about that. So.
Yep. Let's go ahead and take him. Now, before we get going, I'm going to pause it real quick. You guys made a trade up in your mock draft you just did on Patriots Beat, I believe. Do you want to look at a potential trade up right here after a couple picks? And if so, what pick would you be looking to trade up into, or the range?
So here's the problem, right? When I make fun of Evan Lazar, is my co-host on the Catch 22 podcast. I make fun of him all the time for having recency bias with prospects.
Yep.
His favorite prospect in the draft at any given moment is the last prospect he watched. I'm that way with mock drafts. Anytime I do a mock draft, it's great. And I just want to do that. So my instinct is going to be to do what I just did. So you're going to have to push back on me a little bit with that. I do think, so you talk about trade up. I don't think they're going to trade back up into the first round.
Nope.
I do think they're going to earlier into the second. The question is, like, who are we? You trade up to target a player. You don't just trade up and see who's on the board. And it sucks that PFF Simulator, you can't see who's on the board while you go. But like, we traded up for Darnell Washington, right? So that kind of, we had to get in his range. Are we trading up for him? Are we trading up for receiver? If a guy like Darius Rush falls or Deonte Banks falls, are we trading up for him? Are we trading up for an edge guy at a Barre from Northwestern as a guy you could see them moving up for, right? So I think that's, to answer that question, or how far are they going to move up? Well, who are we moving up for? I think that, or is it just, hey, here's like 5 guys we move up for. 4 of them go, all right, this is where we're moving up because there's only 1 left.
Yeah, I think for me, if you're going to move up into the second round, not after taking a tackle right here, I would love to target Emmanuel Forbes, Tyreek Stevenson, Julius Brents, one of those corners that still gives you that length and that athleticism, but you didn't get him in the first round because you went elsewhere. For me, if this is how the board falls, you're looking for one of those guys to fall probably into the mid 30s, maybe low 40s.
So let's sim to the end of the first round.
Okay.
And let's see what corners are still on the board, and then we'll reassess. So Bijan to the Lions. Okay, sure. Joey Porter to the Ravens. That would be fun. That would be fun for the drama. Oh, and Adibare, 31. All right, so we're not trading up for him.
Yep. So you got Deonte Banks that went to the Saints. The really good speed right there. And then you had Joey Porter to the Ravens. So you look at the list right now. Forbes is still there. Tyreek Stevenson, Julius Brents is still there. You're going to have a couple of those targets.
Keely Ringo's still there?
Yep, he is still there.
So I think you see, unless there's one. So here's the thing. Do you really want one of those guys, or are you comfortable with any of them? Because if you really want one, this is maybe where you trade up. And because there's only 31 picks in the first round this year, and the second biggest drop. So the biggest drop off in value in the NFL draft is the first pick to the second pick, because you can't take whoever you want anymore. The second biggest drop off actually isn't second to third. It's usually 32nd to 33rd, because you lose the 5th-year option once you get in the second round. Well, this year, that drop-off's 31 to 32. So this is the cheapest it will ever be to trade up to 32, which value, who does that sound like, right? So if you really want one of those corners, I think you move up right now and take them. If you're good with Forbes or Ringo or whoever, you let a couple picks go and you see if maybe one of them falls, you don't have to give up as much.
Who do you value more, Forbes or Ringo? Because I know Ringo has kind of fallen off in his with his performance.
Yeah.
He still is a freakish athlete. And you talk about doing fun things. Like, I think Bill Belichick could take Keely Ringo and mold him into an incredible cornerback. And he is such a good athlete and has that length still, that he's a guy that you would just drool over, kind of like Christian Gonzalez in Bill Belichick's system.
So I think Keely Ringo has more upside, and I think he's probably ultimately a better player, but the inconsistencies in college really worry me. The other thing is I look at Forbes as a player, and he is a ball hawk, but he's a very athletic ball hawk. He reminds me a lot of J.C. Jackson when he came out. And the Patriots were able to kind of turn J.C. Jackson from a ball hawk into a lockdown guy. You add the on-ball production. I do worry a bit about the size and his tackling ability, talking about Forbes, but if they can do with him what they did with J.C. Jackson, his ceiling is higher. So if it were me, I'd go Ringo. I love the athletic ability. I love the upside. But they are going to love Emmanuel Forbes. He is so their kind of guy. So I guess for the sake of this, let's say Forbes is the guy. But you know what? If he goes and then we move up and or are you moving up to 32 here? Because I still think too, Cam Smith's on the board.
Yes, Cam Smith is on the board. The other one that I really like here, and honestly, you could probably get him in the third. Darius Rush is a guy that was a Senior Bowl dude that performed really
like Darius Rush.
And so that's the other argument is, do you trade up here 14 spots or do you take your pick at 46? Do you try to get a Darius Rush in the third? I really liked him at the Senior Bowl. We all know Bill Belichick loves taking Senior Bowl guys. It's hard.
So we got Forbes, Ringo,
yep,
and Rush and Brents.
Yep.
I think just run it a little bit. Let's see slow it down. Let's see which guys go.
Load this down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let go 5 picks.
Okay, so there goes Cam Smith.
We'll stop it right here. So the only one that we lose out on is Cam Smith. And honestly, I'm fine losing out on Cam Smith just because, I like Cam Smith and I'm not like knocking him, but I think he's more of a slot corner. I really do. And I don't know if that's what New England needs right now.
So scroll down a little bit. I just want to see where the picks are. Okay. So you have the Saints might be a corner team. Titans might be a corner team. Falcons are a corner team. Yeah, this pick or the next pick is probably where you want to move up if you want your pick, because there's going to be a run of corners here starting at pick 40. So you can let it run one more. Maybe it's super spiteful between Bill and Josh and they can't get the deal done right after they stole Brian Hoyer. But let's let it run one more pick. I'm just curious. Let's see who Dave Ziegler takes.
Forbes.
Oh, man. So now you have to move up. So look. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of the draft, right? And people are going to be like, oh, you wanted Forbes. You should have just moved up and taken him. It's your mock. If the Raiders want Forbes, odds are they know the Patriots are going to want Forbes.
Yes.
If the Patriots call for that pick and the Raiders say, because this is what teams do. They don't go in looking to trade. This is the guy we're going to take. We're going to negotiate trades, but if we don't get the trade we want, this is the pick. They're going to see the Patriots call. They're going to know who Bill's moving up for. And they are going to demand a ransom for that pick. What just happened to us is exactly how it would play out. Now, though, you lost Forbes. Now you move up and get your guy because here comes the run.
Yeah. So
right.
You're sitting here. You're going to move up about 7 picks right here. So we'd offer 46. The value here, we have 3 4th-round picks right here.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have to give up one of them.
I think you give up both. So you're going to call the Panthers, right? All right. Well, what are you going to give us? You're going to give some offer. They're going to say, well, we see here 2 years ago, you gave up a 2nd and 2 4ths to move up to draft Christian Barmore.
Yep.
Why should we expect any less? Now, those 4ths were worth less. I think you probably give up 117 and 135.
Yeah. I would not give up 107. 107 is a pretty valuable pick in the 4th.
You can probably they don't have a later pick to take. You take that 6th rounder from Arizona. You can probably take that, the future 6 from Arizona there on their side.
Oh, on their side, the future 6.
You can probably get that. Yeah.
Just get around. Yep.
That's probably, it's a little bit of an overpay, but you overpay to move up. That's the cost of doing business. That's how it works.
For sure. Well, we're going to offer this trade right here. Obviously, should be accepted. Okay.
Yep.
You look here. We wanted to target corner all along. So here, Keely Ringo's the guy that we had in mind this whole time, and it's going to be a reach on PFF. I think that his upside is through the roof, and this is a guy you trade up for.
Yeah.
You trade up for a guy that has this enormous potential, and he's not the safest pick here, but you trade up and you go get a guy that could seriously be an all-pro level cornerback just because of the traits he has. So I love Keely Ringo here. A lot of people
thought guy I like we didn't talk about. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is Tyreek Stevenson from Miami. It's another Senior Bowl guy. I don't think he has the upside of Brents or Ringo or Forbes, but he's a grown man. He plays corner like a grown man. He's going to come in and bully guys. They might like him. He also might not be on the board here. He might go sneaky high.
Yeah, it's just, and I like Stevenson too. He might have been, him and Darius Rush probably at the Senior Bowl were two of the probably best corners in my opinion. But New England doesn't have that length. 6'2", the difference between 6'2", 210 and what Tyreek Stevenson is, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot on the outside. And plus you're talking about probably a better athlete in Ringo. It's too hard to pass up on a guy like this when you see him come around, because they really don't come around that often, a guy like him.
The biggest knock on Ringo, and part of the reason he's going to fall, and this is a real knock, he's not great in small spaces. He's fast, but he's not quick. He's not agile. And he's going to struggle against smaller, shiftier receivers. That shouldn't matter for the Patriots because they have the only corners they have are guys that cover small, shifty receivers, right?
Exactly.
You're making this pick, so when you face the Raiders and you have to cover Devontae Adams, and you face the Bengals and you have to cover T. Higgins, right? And if DeAndre Hopkins ends up with the Bills, right? And you need those physicals that you just need to maul up and down the field. You don't have a guy that can do that right now, especially if Jalen Mills is going to play safety. Yeah. That's what Kelee Ringo is going to give you. I think they want, I don't know if they're looking for a true number one corner. I think they want to kind of play this mix and match, matchup secondary. Kelee Ringo is the matchup piece they don't have right now. I'd say the same thing about Julius Brents, by the way, but Kelee Ringo is a better athlete than Brents is, probably has a little more upside.
Yeah. Brents is, he's an inch taller than him too. So you want to talk about size. He's an inch taller than him. To me, you're taking the upside here too in Kelee Ringo, and it's he's going to be a mauler on the outside, and that's what New England struggled with. I have all confidence in the world. Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, Jack Jones can at least limit or do what Bill Belichick wants to do with the Stephon Diggs, those great route runners that you're going to deal with, but you don't have a guy. And you thought it was going to be Juwan Williams. He never panned out. People have high hopes for Sean Wade. He hasn't done anything yet in New England. You're going to get a guy right here that's played the best level of football, sealed a national championship for Georgia last year, their first one against Alabama, and has been playing against the top competition. So, Ringo here for me, probably a home run pick. From where he was viewed before the season, before his inconsistency issues, he was probably a top 3 corner.
Yeah.
So we'll take him here. You want to let it run probably all the way to 76, right? You're not really looking to trade back up.
How many picks do we have? Was it 9?
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. Yeah, we already took 2, so we have 9 total after trading.
This is a weird thing, but one thing I always look at, they've taken 10 guys 3 of the last 4 years. The only year they didn't was the pandemic year. They took 8. I think 10's a magic number for them. So let it run, but at some point,
you're going to trade down.
We need to add a pick, yeah.
Okay. We'll let it run here. Drew Sanders going. Jahmyr Gibbs, why this runs? What are your thoughts on the potential blue chip running back? Do you buy it? And do you think that is a route that New England will go? If so, is it Bijan or is it Jahmyr Gibbs? Who would you rather see New England draft?
So the report was that they were, infatuated, right?
Yes.
They were infatuated with Bijan Robinson. I'm also infatuated with Bijan Robinson. Most people should be. He's a very talented football player.
Yes.
The jump from being infatuated with to playing on drafting is significant, right? I'm sure they're infatuated with Will Anderson. They're not drafting Will Anderson. It's not going to happen. I could totally, and I said this months ago, and people got pissed at me. I can totally see them trading up in the second round, take Jahmyr Gibbs. I can totally see it. Bill O'Brien loves that guy. If Bill Belichick goes to him and says, look, it's my draft board, but if there's one thing he wants to do, what is it? Would not surprise me if Bill O'Brien says, move up and get Gibbs. And look, they need to limit Ramondre Stevenson's workload. I don't think that desperately. And I like some of the running backs that are available on day 3 here, like early on day 3, but it's just like, I wouldn't do it, but I can totally see them taking Jahmyr Gibbs.
Bill O'Brien was his offensive coordinator the last 2 seasons, and he put up huge numbers there. Right. I believe one executive in the NFL, they didn't say who it was, but said that they believe when he comes in, he'll be the best pass catching back in the league right off the bat.
I don't know about that. Christian McCaffrey's still in the league. He'll be up there.
It's crazy to say that when you got guys like Christian McCaffrey still playing in the NFL.
He played some wide receiver at Alabama, but so here's the thing. if you're drafting Jahmyr Gibbs, you're drafting him as a running back. I hear people rationalize it by saying, "Oh, well, you take him, you take him to play. You just draft him to have him play slot receiver. Well, then draft a slot receiver." It's what Urban Meyer tried to do with Travis Etienne. He got hurt, so that doesn't justify it. You're not drafting him to play receiver, but he has some receiver-like traits.
He does, and he moves so fluidly. Him and Bijan are the blue chip backs of this class, but the way the NFL views running backs and stuff, it's hard for me to get behind it. Not saying I wouldn't like him here. It's just, I don't know how the NFL, if that aligns with what Bill Belichick believes. But looking at the board right here, you talked about edge. One guy I just want to hit on, and then I'll get your opinion on where they go with pick 76. A guy that I've always thought was a Bill Belichick type of player, Andre Carter out of Army. Big, physical, can play inside, can rush the passer. Obviously, we know Bill Belichick loves the military institutes. I don't know if that's going to come into play. But you talk about an edge guy that Bill Belichick might possibly, kind of gravitate to. Do you look at Andre Carter, or do you look at a guy that's differently, like a Byron Young or one of those guys?
Yeah, I think it's more that bigger, strong, presence. Andre Carter has had a rough pre-draft process. And honestly, it begins with Army Navy. He didn't play well in the Army Navy game. He didn't have a good time at the Senior Bowl. There are so being at West Point, there are some size restrictions where like he couldn't put on too much mass. And I think you're seeing that right now where he gets bullied against stronger defenders. And I just don't think they're going to wait for him to develop. He gets pushed around too much right now when he's trying to come around the edge. They're going to want one of these more stout guys, whether that's Byron Young, I see there. Not Wooden, the other guy from Auburn.
Derek Hall.
We just took him. Whether it's, Derek Hall.
Yeah, he went to Arizona.
Did he? Okay. That mean dude. Mean and not. Like, everybody raves about him as a teammate. He's a great guy, but I would not want to line up against him. He's going to beat the crap out of you, whoever you are. Me, obviously, but like actual football players too. Yeah, I like Byron Young. I like the edge, Zach Harrison from Ohio State. Those more like true stout edge setters. That's more where I think they go with this pick. I know a lot of people like Carl Brooks. They've been a small school team the last couple of years. I think they're probably going to trend away from that this year. They never stick to one trend for too long. But he could be a guy that fits that description as well.
Yeah, a guy that you mentioned too, and obviously I've been infatuated with Andre Carter. His inconsistencies and how he performed at the Senior Bowl really turned me off. I still am a fan of him, but Byron Young has really caught my attention the last couple or the months leading up to this. 4.43 40-yard dash at 6'2", 250, stout dude, edge rusher that can do it all. And the one knock on him, he's 25 years old, right?
Right.
Okay, I know that's such a knock in the NFL. He's developed. He's probably going to come in and be ready to go right away, especially playing in the SEC. He's gone up against the best competition. Yeah, he's a little bit older. You're not going to have as much time with him just because he's 25, not 21, 22. But this guy might be a plug-and-play dude right now in the third round that you're going to be getting.
It's also not a knock for the Patriots. They have the oldest average draft class going back to 2017. They took Kyle Duggar at, I think, like 23, 24. Cole Strange was older last year. He was in college for 6 years. They like exactly like you said, they like the guys who already come in a little bit developed. Young obviously fits that role. 4 years of experience, 2 at the obviously SEC and then 2 at the JUCO level. He was whatever the all pro equivalent is at JUCO. I think it's something else, but Byron Young, totally their kind of pick.
Yeah. Is there another position that maybe we didn't look at the whole board? Is there another position maybe you're looking at here though that you could see New England targeting?
Trying to think of who we took. So we took tackle corner.
Yep.
So do you respect the board? Is that like, so on my show, we do respect the board. Or if a guy's not going to be there and the PFF simulator is being dumb, we just don't take him.
I don't like doing it I like doing that just because I don't want to get my hopes up for a guy that I don't think is going to be there in the third.
Like Jordan Battle's there, man. You can get Jordan Battle 76.
For sure.
Fantastic. Jordan Battle's not going to be there at 76.
No,
he's not.
Yep.
So, I know a lot of people want them to go receiver here. I guess who's there for receiver? I don't need to see them add another receiver that muddles the depth chart. Like maybe you could talk me into Cedric Tillman because he might push Devontae Parker.
That's the one guy that I look at, and had a couple injury concerns this year, but in that offense, and he was kind of overshadowed by Jalen Hyatt, but he's a big bodied receiver. And I heard you talk about this just an hour ago when you were talking about, I think they're going to go for more of an X type receiver. Yeah. Cedric Tillman, A.T. Perry. I mean, Butte, I'm not really high on him anymore. He was a huge, big deal coming into this year's draft. And then obviously the concerns that he has, but Cedric Tillman's growing on me more and more. And he's got that frame and, strong hands, contested catch. He could be kind of the Devontae Parker replacement, depending on where New England sees him going in the next couple of years.
The one other thing I'd wonder, who's calling for a trade? What's the move down?
You got the Bucks, 82, so about 6.
Okay. And actually, they have 153, so that bridges the gap really well between 107 and 184.
I'm all down for moving. You have a lot of value here. We talked about there's multiple edge defenders. If one of them go, you pivot and you take a receiver, which I agree with you. I don't think it's very likely, but I would love a Cedric Tillman, guys like that on this team. But I agree with you. I think that you bridge that gap. This will get you to 10 picks in the draft. And it's a long ways. I mean, it's about 70 picks from 107 to 184. So, 77 or whatever. It's a long gap right there.
So I don't know, you could probably get another pick from them too. I don't know how this works on the chart. What happens if you try to throw on 196?
82% chance, still pretty high. I mean,
you know what, you can probably just take that off. It's a little bit. PFF's their meter doesn't really line up with the trade chart. They should just put the trade chart in the back of their system. But this would more or less be the move. You pick up a 4th or a high 5th. Yeah, I mean, this makes sense.
Okay, let's offer it. We have a couple guys we want at least. That's you talked about not just trading down to trade down. There's 5 or 6 guys that we talked about that we would love to have at 76, and most of them are probably going to be there at 82. So we'll make this trade. See who is still on the board once we get there. Andre Carter, Tillman goes. AT
Tillman's the only one who went. I really like DeMario Overshown too. I don't know that they'll take him.
Take a linebacker this high.
No, and if it's somebody, it's Henry To'oTo'o
from Alabama.
Yeah.
So I think right here, you trade down. You talked about a guy that fits New England. It's Byron Young right here, an edge defender. And a lot of people are going to be like, an edge guy. We don't need that. Bill Belichick always finds guys like this that, come in, have a solid 4 years with New England. And then if they're available, then they stay here. But I really like Byron Young at this pick.
And Patriots fans are going to like the way he plays too. He's going to win them over.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go Byron Young here. Yeah. We bridge the gap, and then we have a pick coming up here at 107. So only in 12, 13 picks right here. So I got to ask right here, once 107 comes on and I'll see the board, doing all these mock drafts and stuff, there's 2 guys that I always gravitate to in this spot. Okay. I got to see if one of them's available, and he is. J.L. Skinner is a guy to me that I have loved. Now, I know Bill Belichick always loves to take safeties, especially with McCourty being gone. I don't know how likely it is with Jalen Mills moving back, but a lot of people project this guy to possibly be a bigger nickel. And this guy probably won't play at all this year due to his injury that he's having. He didn't perform. So you talk about a guy, possibly J.L. Skinner, who could come in and maybe kind of redshirt his first year and see how he's going to be. And I know Bill Belichick's done that with Joshua Bledsoe, a couple guys like that.
Cameron
what are your Cam McGrone?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on taking another safety in this spot?
I could see them doing it. The other thing is, if the board falls this way, I know they usually don't take Ohio State guys. I think that changes this year. 2, they're gonna love Ronnie Hickman.
Ronnie Hickman
plays everywhere. Deep safety, box safety, linebacker, rushes the passer, special teams, great tackler, fundamentally sound tackler, high motor player. I can see them taking J.L. Skinner, but not over Ronnie Hickman. The other thing is, so we made that trade where we gave up both 4th round picks. If they can somehow keep 2 of those 4ths or add another one, the J.L. Skinner pick makes a lot more sense if they have multiple picks in this range, right?
Yes.
Because if you're going 107, 117, you take Skinner with one of those and you get another player in this range who can compete. So
yes.
It's a little bit tougher here, but I could see it. Who's the other guy?
Let's see. I want to, and I heard you talk about him, and I don't think it's likely, but a guy like Zach Kuntz and how he tested, I think he's like Mike Gesicki. If Mike Gesicki leaves in the offseason because he's only signed a 1-year deal, and this guy gets some quality reps, or he, is the future for New England at that spot, we heard him say that they view him as they view Mike Gesicki as kind of a receiver, glorified receiver. I think that Zach Kuntz is very similar to him, and he tested like a freak. He's 6'7". He ran well. To me, he is just one of the most exciting, well, not the most exciting, but a very exciting tight end prospect that you can grab in the 4th or 5th round. And maybe, we know how much the 2 tight end system means to Bill O'Brien. Next offseason, if you let one of those guys go, now you have a guy that you've at least developed under Bill O'Brien, and he's ready to step in.
Yeah, I really like Zach Kuntz. I'm a big fan of his game, and they might see him. I can already tell there's probably people screaming that, he can take a receiver. He can take a receiver. They might think Zach Kuntz is a receiver.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like they think Mike Gesicki's a receiver, and that's my comp for him is Zach Kuntz. Yeah, I love the idea of taking Kuntz here. I think he unlocks a lot of potential. Maybe he is that X receiver. Like, I think he's a big slot, but you could maybe put him out at the X and see what he can do. So I like the idea of Zach Kuntz here. I like the idea of Skinner. The other thing I've looked at with this pick is running back.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
And what I think they're going to do, we've talked a lot about, you got to lessen Ramondre's workload. And I think everybody agrees on that. But a lot of people looked at it as take Deuce Vaughn, take Kendre Miller, take one of these pass catching backs, and Ramondre becomes your early down back. I wonder if last year, remember, we all thought they were going to take a big back, and they took a pass catcher and Pierre Strong with like the higher pick. I think they took Kevin Harris later, but I think they reversed it on us this year. I think they're going to take one of these bowling ball guys, whether it's, and I love Dwayne McBride for them. It's a weird comp. He is the Bailey Zappi of this draft in that, like, the comp is so much of Bailey Zappi's evaluation was just the numbers. The numbers were so absurd that you look at it and say, well, there has to be something here. He didn't put that all up with no skill. He didn't put that all up by accident. Dwayne McBride, same thing. Second leading rusher in the nation in terms of yards. The only guy that had more went to Air Force. That doesn't count because they only run the ball. Led the nation with 20 touchdowns. He just bounces off defenders. The other couple guys who kind of fit this bill as you scroll down, Kenny McIntosh from Georgia.
Yep.
And I wish they took Pitt guys. Izzy Abanikanda from Pitt. That dude runs hard. And he also has some big playability. Like he'll break a run every once in a while. So if it's 107 and McBride's on the board, it's McBride to me. I don't know that Izzy makes it to 153. Maybe Kenny McIntosh does. Maybe you start talking about Chris Rodriguez, but I could see running back here too.
Yeah. And I think they take a running back at some point in the draft. I do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in the 4th, and I don't know if I want it to be in the 4th. Now, you talked about it. If it is a guy, I love Dwayne McBride also. Yeah. I love Roschon Johnson. I think that he kind of gets overshadowed by Bijan, but he did some great things for Texas. Deuce
I like
Vaughn,
Kendre Miller too. I'm a big Kendre Miller guy. Reminds me a little bit of Ramondre coming out.
And he really impressed me in the playoff game. The last 2 playoff games he had, you kind of, Max Duggan, Quentin Johnson. You hear about these guys. They had this running back going off. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? And then obviously you go back and watch film on him. I think he made a lot of money in those couple playoff games and stuff. But Sean Tucker, super productive. I like a lot of running backs here. I don't know if I'd be happy with them taking one in the 4th. Now I could totally see them doing it. Like it wouldn't surprise me at all. Just for the sake of it, though, I feel like I would rather wait for 153 and take one of those guys. So,
all right. So it's Kuntz or Skinner is where we're at.
Yeah, and I agree with you. If there's 2 second round or if there's 2 4th round picks here, you can get away with taking a guy that's going to sit out and take longer to develop. But I think that you take Kuntz, you get him in the system, then you don't feel the pressure to re-sign both of Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. If Mike Gesicki has a great year and he's demanding for all that money, here's your replacement right here. You don't lose anything. You're on a cheap contract with Kuntz. You can let Gesicki walk and go get that bag that he wanted. And you really have that 2 tight end system still in place as long as Hunter Henry stays.
And I think for the people, like a lot of people want to see them take, Dalton Kincaid in the 1st round.
Yeah.
And I've been very much against that. And I think some people, because I think he's redundant to Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. And I think people look at that and see me say, I like this pick and say I'm being a bit of a hypocrite. Well, the difference is I'm not using a top 20 pick.
Yep. It's
right?
hard.
We're here
Yeah.
107. It's a lot easier to swallow. Frankly, I think Kuntz and Kincaid have the same ceiling. I think Kuntz's floor is just much lower. He's much more of an unknown. But at this point in the draft, I'll take that risk. If he pans out, then yeah, maybe he does push Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki for a role this year. If he doesn't, he used the 107th pick, whatever. You're out of top 100 is fine. So I like Kuntz here. I do.
It's just 6'7", 255, 34-inch arms. He ran a 4.5, a 4.1, 20-yard shuttle. I mean, 40 on the vertical and 10.8. Like everything he tested in was in the 90th percentile at the combine.
So if you look at Mock Draftable does these things called spider charts, where basically they take all the measurables and like to what percentile do they compare to other players who've been in the draft. Zach Kuntz's comparison is Calvin Johnson. Like,
yeah,
in
Megatron.
terms of athletic pro. And by the way, there's two guys in this draft that do that, which out of nowhere, Zach Kuntz and Bryce Ford Wheaton. They're closest to athletic now, skill set, nowhere close. Not remotely close. I'm not saying they're the same player, but athletic profile, athletic testing. Zach Kuntz, closest match in the last, I think their data goes back to 2003, is Calvin Johnson. It's kind of one of those things where, like, if he's that athletically gifted, and the league is going much more towards athleticism than skill. Look at the Super Bowl this year as a track meet, right? Just get the guy that can jump through the roof and outrun the entire opposing roster and figure it out from there, right? There's got to be something there you can make it work.
Yeah, and there's just not an offensive coordinator we've seen. Well, there's been more two tight end sets, but the creator of the two tight end set in the NFL,
right
now our offensive coordinator.
The two tight end set guy.
Yes, this is Mr. Two tight end set, and yeah, I think that he's going to be a huge pick. So I'm going to go ahead and take Kuntz. He's just a guy that and he's slowly been climbing up draft boards. The first mock draft I did a couple months ago, I mean, his average pick was like 190, and I was taking him at 184 for New England.
Yeah.
Then I started taking him at 117 and stuff. And then I just think the way he tested and the size he has, he's going to continue to climb up the boards. The other thing, you know where Zach Kuntz originally played at and who recruited him?
Penn State, Bill O'Brien, and he got to know Mike Gesicki.
Boom.
So you're one of the OG Zach Kuntz guys, because everybody found him at the combine this year. There's always that guy. You know what was last year, by the way? Taekwon. 2 weeks before the combine, I stumbled on Taekwon Thor. I was like, this guy might be a fun day 3 pick.
Yeah.
Test through the roof. All of a sudden, everybody's into him. Sounds like you've been on Zach Kuntz since the beginning. So
I mean,
nice to meet another member of the club.
I looked at him and, obviously knowing he was a transfer, because I'm like, not many guys 6'7" that have this athleticism make it to Old Dominion. And so I'm like, what's his path, right? Find out he came from from Penn State, was originally under Bill O'Brien. It makes too much sense. It really does.
And the other thing to know is, had he been able to come out after last season, he would have been a much higher pick. He had a great 2021. His 2022 got cut short with an undisclosed injury. Now, we've learned since what that injury is, dislocated kneecap, and he's been given a full clear by doctors, but undisclosed injury, only 1 year of real production. Those things scare teams, right? Yeah. And the injury's been cleared up. If he had played last year, as strong as this class is, if he had played last year and put up similar numbers to what he did in 2021, he's pushing top 50. He's right there with like Sam Laporta and Tucker Kraft in that tier. So massive, massive, massive ceiling. The floor is not quite what it is with those guys, but massive ceiling.
For sure. I love the pick here. I'm going to go ahead and take that. And we already have I'm going to pause it right after here. We already have our 10 picks. Are you thinking of going up for someone, or just letting it run through the rest of the way, since we're going to be in the 5th round here?
So yeah, wait, is 153 5th or 6th round?
That will be,
because I'm going to dump
5th.
Another trend on you. So they never draft in the 5th round unless it's special teams guys, or like
kicker.
That's Cameron McGrone. So could be a kicker punter spot. If JL Skinner falls, that would absolutely be where they take him.
Yes.
I don't think they're moving up at this point. I think let it get to 153. If we move back, we move back. But I want to see if JL Skinner doesn't go. That's the pick.
Yeah. Another guy that just went that I love. Well, 2 guys. Yeah. Riley Moss from Iowa. I'm really growing on him. And then, gosh, now I just lost it. It was I'm going to once I get back up here. Oh, Jonathan Mingo. He's getting high praise, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if New England takes a receiver like you mentioned until maybe later, but Jonathan Mingo's getting a lot of high praise, and I don't know if I'm as high on him as some of the guys, but you always hear a name at the receiver position that seems to climb up late in the draft, and it seems like that's him this year.
Yeah. The two injured guys, by the way, somewhere up there went back to back. Was JL Skinner and Andrew Voorhees, who were the two guys they could do that with this year.
Right there. Buffalo to Skinner, and then guard help for the Bengals.
I think we just missed on a Banacanda too.
Israel. Yep. 2 picks before us.
2 picks. Yep. So maybe that's where they trade up, but it's tough on the simulator. Like in real life, it's much easier to monitor that versus in this setting. But,
yeah. I hate how they don't let you see the board when you pause it or something. It's kind of bugged me for a while now, but, we talked about running back later here. Some Kenny McIntosh still available here.
Yeah.
A guy that I've liked too that's just been really productive in his college career, Mo Ibram. I don't know if he's going to be a guy that New England would look at taking in the 5th round right here. He's super small, but he's been super productive running the ball for Minnesota in his career. So
played for them at the Shrine Bowl too.
Yeah, he was a Shrine Bowl guy. So Corey Trice is another guy that has that size. Now we already got our big long corner, but Trice 6'3" is a guy that I would love if we didn't take or trade up for Ringo in that round, and maybe you take a guy in the 3rd or 4th. You can get away with double dipping at corner and adding some size, but
I think they could double dip there, and they might think Trice is a safety too. I wouldn't rule that out.
They could.
So they could double dip there. They could double dip a tackle too. I would not rule out them double dipping a tackle or maybe taking a tackle guard. Actually, is Jackson Kirkland still on the board?
I love Kirkland from Washington.
Yeah, another guy that played in the Shrine Bowl. So he was an all Pac-12 tackle, all Pac-12 left tackle. You can see it in his snaps there in the bottom left. Was supposed to come out in the draft last year, was a fringe 1st-round pick last year, and then he suffered an ankle injury training for the draft, and it was early enough in the process that he could go back to school, and that's what he did. You think, all right, well, this guy's already been an all-pro Pac-12 tackle. He's going to go back and be dominant. He's going to be a 1st-round pick. Well, the rest of their line sucked, and they ended up having to move him to guard to be competitive, and then he was really good at guard. So what does that tell you? 2 things. He's positionally versatile. He's a very selfless teammate because he cost himself a lot of money by doing that.
By coming back, yes.
Now, I think NFL teams might see him as a guard anyway. I think there's a good chance of that. I actually talked to him at the Shrine Bowl. He said that he knows some teams see him as a guard, but you can try him out at left tackle. You can try him out at right tackle. Worst case scenario, he's a guy that should be able to start at right guard if you lose Michael Onwenu to free agency last year. I don't know exactly what his role is this year. I don't know exactly what his role is in the future, but he's going to have one. He's talented. You draft him and you figure it out later. He's just a good guy to have in the building. That's how I feel about him, and it makes sense in this spot.
Yeah, and Bill Belichick takes tons of guards. Chasen Hines last year. We got Michael Onwenu late in the process a couple years ago. The one thing I want to ask you, with the way that and the age of David Andrews, do they need to take a specific center and start developing that guy? Or is that, maybe next year in the draft that they need to take? Because Andrews is off a contract after 2024.
Yeah, it's funny you ask that. I've seen so many people bring this up, and so many people send me mock drafts where they're taking centers at like 76 and 107.
Yeah.
So they have Andrews, like you said, for 2 more years. He was good last year when he wasn't hurt. Now, he got hurt a lot, but he was still very good when he wasn't hurt. I'm not too worried about his age. And I think they really like Cody Russi, who they signed last year as a UDFA out of Houston.
Yep, Houston.
And then they still have Ferentz, James Ferentz. So I think center is an overstated need right now. If they can get a guy that's maybe like a center guard combo, sure. Like that's maybe more the way they look. But I see like Drew Scruggs, good player.
Yep.
He's a pure center. I don't see what his role is here. I really don't. So I don't see center as a massive need.
Okay. Right, and I agree with you. I've mocked it before. I've mocked Scruggs. I've also mocked the Ricky Stromberg out of Iowa a couple times.
People love Stromberg. I see him a ton.
And I will say that like the guys at the top of the draft, and a couple years ago we got we had Creed Humphrey come out, and he probably should have been drafted a little bit higher than he was. But you got guys like John Michael Schmidt. You got a couple of the Steve Avila, who did really good at the Senior Bowl for TCU. Yeah. You got guys that will be up there, but I don't know if you want to take a top 100 pick, especially with David Andrews still 2 years. You can maybe get the 2 years out of him and then reevaluate that position. So I agree with you, but I do like Jackson Kirkland. I think that you can never have enough guards. Well, you can never have enough offensive linemen, but you can never have enough interior offensive linemen. You're always shuffling guys. And the fact that he was an all Pac-12 and all Power 5 tackle tells you, hey, if we have an injury to the tackle, you bump him out. And he,
Right.
you know that he can hold his own. That gives you position versatility, and I think we know Bill Belichick values that.
Right.
So I'll take Kirkland here. I like it, and then we have kind of a run on picks here: 184, 187, 192. So we'll take Kirkland. Let this roll about 30 picks, and then see where we're at. If they were to take a running back or a receiver, do you think that it's coming up here in the 6th round once they get up to some of these picks?
Yeah, I think here we start looking at running back, we start looking at receiver, we start looking at punter, maybe linebacker, doubling up a corner, doubling up a tackle. There's a lot that's on the board here.
Let's start with receiver, just because I know a lot of people will want to address a receiver, and you've said it before, they won't want one in the 6th round, but this is probably where they look at one, in my opinion, too, if they don't go 1st round there. A guy that they've brought in a ton, Puka Nacua. Other than that, is there anyone on here that really excites you? I mean, Bobo's 6'4". That's the X type receiver you're talking about.
I think they're going to think he's a tight end. My comp for him is Little Jordan Humphrey.
Okay.
I like Demas. Just scroll down a little bit there.
Yes.
I do like Justin Shorter. They worked with him at the Senior Bowl. It's probably a little early. I like Jamario Douglas. If you just want to add speed, explosiveness, he could be a scheme touch guy. Dallas Daniels covers kicks. He's a gunner. He gives you some of that. Keep going. Although at this point, these are probably guys who are getting later. I really liked Michael Jefferson. Unfortunately, got in a car accident the other day. Hope he's okay. Obviously. Some people, it's funny. I've been watching Steve Smith, the former receiver from the Panthers, has done these great cut-ups on YouTube about some of these players. He got me all excited about Grant Dubose there for a couple days, but these are all guys you can probably wait on. I'm curious.
You get him at 245, 210.
Yeah. I'm curious who's there at running back and who's there at tackle.
Okay, running back, Evan Hull's the guy. Chris Rodriguez, too. Those are the two guys that stay. I've mocked Keaton Mitchell to New England before.
Yeah.
This is pretty good value, but again, just a smaller running back. He's not the big power back like you would think that they would maybe flip the script on, like you mentioned earlier.
I think you wait here. Rodriguez or Ibrahim would be fine to end up with. Who's there at linebacker?
Because
I do think they might add a linebacker. So I do really like Mo Diabate.
Yep. I was just gonna say that. I don't know if you know this. I'm from Utah. Like I coach at FCS school here in Utah, and we play the University of Utah this year. We played them 2 years ago, but we're so happy that we played them when Devin Lloyd was there. So I was like all infatuated with Devin Lloyd. But Mo Diabate transferring from Florida. This dude's got length. He was also a guy. He was at the Shrine Bowl, wasn't he?
Yeah, he played for them. So, and he stepped into that Devin Lloyd role. And I remember when I talked to him there, I'm asking all the guys on the Patriots team, did you watch the Patriots at all? Did you look to see the defense, how you're going to fit in? And if they said yes, I was like, oh, whose role do you see yourself in? And, guys saying Josh Uche, Juwan Bentley, couple guys said like Dante Hightower, Kyle Van Noy. So I asked Diabate, he goes, well, I really like Mike Vrabel. Like that Mike Vrabel. He goes, yeah, and Willie McGinnis too. Like I love his game. And then 30 seconds later, we're talking about the Steel Curtain defense and Jack Lambert. And I almost paused the interview because I stopped. I told him, I don't know if you're talking to Bill yet, but you need to have this conversation with him. He is such a football historian. So I don't know if Mo took my advice or not. If he did, I think he's going to be a Patriot. The other guy here I really like. I think he's getting slept on both in the draft, but specifically, I cannot for the life of me understand why he is not getting more hype as a potential Patriots pick. And that is Servassier Dennis from Pittsburgh. Other than the fact Bill's never drafted a guy from Pitt. This guy plays 3 positions. He can play essentially linebacker, box safety. He can rush the passer. He can play deep safety a little bit. He's incredibly athletic. He can play sideline to sideline. I wouldn't say he's undersized. He's not big, but he's 6'1", 230. He also tied for the highest score. What's the new Wonderlic again? It's like the S2 or something.
Yeah, the S2. They were just talking about it with Bryce Young today.
He tied Bryce Young for the highest score in the S2. Also, by the way, all-state high school lacrosse player.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people aren't talking more about this guy. I freaking love him as a Patriots fit. Nobody else does. I haven't seen anybody else talk about him. But if they took Servassier Dennis here, I would be very happy. I think he could be something.
Yeah, the other one, Aubrey Miller Jr. had a good Senior Bowl showing. D. Winters is the dude that just went off against Michigan.
I love D. Winters. So
I think he's great.
I think him, like play style wise, him and Servassier Dennis are very similar. So if you're not familiar with Dennis, but you're familiar with Winters, Dennis is a little more downhill, a little bit bigger. I think Winters has a little more lateral motion ability, but I love D. Winters for them. Like, I see those two guys, they're always next to each other on PFF. They're always next to each other on NFL Mock Draft Database. They're next to each other everywhere. They play the same way. Like, one of those two guys I would love for the Patriots. I think I like Dennis more because nobody's talking about him, and I have to be a draft hipster. But
yeah,
I would love it if the Patriots got one of those two guys.
Okay, now I'm down for either one. The one thing I will ask you, do you value, and I know a lot of people want to see bigger, longer, lengthier linebackers. Mo Diabate at 6'4", is that a deal breaker for you, or is that a reason you'd take him over Servassier Dennis or D. Winters? Because those guys are 6 foot hovering right there.
So I guess the question is, what are you looking for? Are you looking for like a linebacker? Because Mo Diabate is probably a better linebacker. If you're just going to play him like you play a linebacker. Or do you want one of these new agey hybrid money backers?
And I think Bill's going to want the new agey guy, right? He loves versatility, right?
You'd think so, but he's had so many chances to take those guys. He just hasn't. The draft was full of those guys last year. Remember Troy Anderson, the former quarterback from Montana State? That guy was like, that was the guy, and they kept passing on him. So
I love that guy. That was my draft crush last year.
So I'm torn between like Diabate's their guy. That's the kind of guy they take. But I feel like this is a year where they have to break some trends. And if they break some trends, then Dennis is the guy. So it's a tough question to answer. History tells us they go Diabate, but at what point do they figure out they need more athleticism on the defensive side of the ball, right? Winters and Dennis, the other thing about them, ideal quarterback spy guys. Those are the guys you're going to have spy and Josh Allen.
Allen. Yep.
You know, if we're saying, well, what do they do? What do they historically do? You take Diabate. If we think they're going to get a little bold and a little adventurous, Winters or Dennis.
Yeah, I'm going to trust you on this one. I know D. Winters more than Servassier Dennis. Yeah. If they're similar, I'm fine going Dennis. I need to watch more film on him. That's a guy that, you gave me an idea to go watch film on. But I think that we need to get more athletic at the linebacker position specifically.
Go watch Dennis, but take Winters because they were at his pro day. They're going to like the fact he played in college football playoff. If it comes down to those two, I actually think they will like Winters better than Dennis. Now, I think Winters is going to go a little higher. I don't think they're actually going to be as close on the board as PFF has them.
Yeah.
But if it's between the two and they say we're going to take one of these two guys, D. Winters is going to win in the room. I believe that.
Okay, well, we'll take D. Winters here, and then we're up in 3 picks. So a lot of these guys we just talked about, you can go back and look at the running backs.
I just noticed we missed Ronnie Bell. That would have been a good pick.
Yeah,
I just missed him by 1 pick in my last mock, too.
And PFF knows they want to screw you over. Is this a spot that you look at punters possibly? We can go look at the specialists here.
Yes, this is definitely a punter spot.
Who do you prefer here? I know Michael Turk's the guy that got a ton of work with the Patriots. You think that's I think a lot of people thought that they were going to take Matt Ariza last year. Luckily they didn't because of the issues he had, but is this the clear-cut guy for New England?
I think so. It's so rare you're familiar with players in the draft, right? And they're going to love the level of familiarity. So I think Turk's the guy. I like Turk, Corsic, Behringer. I like all 3 of them. I think all of them are going to be good NFL punters, but Turk is my guy. Like, he's my favorite of the group.
Yeah, and the thing is Jake Bailey was good when we first drafted him. It has been painful to watch our punt unit the last couple of years with his struggles. And then I think that people under or overvalue a good punter severely. It was painful to watch the last couple of years when he was struggling. So just for simplicity, take Michael Turk. He's the one that most Patriots fans will be familiar with. The Patriots have worked out with him, and then we don't have to bore everyone with a bunch of punter and kicker talk. So I'll take Michael Turk here. And then, another right up here again. Do you want to look at running backs? Do you want to look at receivers? Still haven't grabbed a receiver. All these guys that we talked about still on the board. No one left. So you're probably going to get them at 210 also.
So, yeah, I like receiver here. I don't want to get you ratioed on Twitter if you're going to share this. People are going to be mad you didn't take a receiver high enough. I think it's a good spot for receiver. I also think it's a good spot if, and we're kind of rolling with the Shrine Bowl guys now. If they wanted to take Mo Ibrahim.
Oh, the running back. Yeah.
would make, although Chris Rodriguez is still on the board. I think Chris
I know.
Rodriguez is a better player. Rodriguez might not make it to 210. I know it's not that many picks, but this is already kind of a fall for him. They're going to like Rod. So here's the funny thing about Rodriguez, right? And I gave the spiel for about, I think they're going to take a bigger power back. 2 years ago, led the SEC in rushing, and they love productive backs. 2 years ago, led the SEC in rushing, failed to follow up last year because of injury. Kevin Harris led the SEC in rushing, and then his draft year failed to follow up because of injury and fell in the draft. It's the same pick. It's the exact same pick. So if we're going to use history, they would scoop up Chris Rodriguez here, I think.
I like Chris Rodriguez better. I do. I like Mo Ibram, but 5'8", 203 pounds. He was so productive in college, like very, very productive, except for 2021, when he obviously had the issues, but he was productive in college for Minnesota, and he's not a flashy back. I mean, he was just a straight productive dude, but I agree with you. I think Chris Rodriguez is a guy here, bigger bodied. He's going to be able to take a beating and take the load off of Ramondre Stevenson a little bit better than Mo Ibram is, in my opinion.
He's just going to be a bowling ball at the goal line, which why make Ramondre take those hits?
Yeah, Ramondre's the clear-cut number one. I think you have Pierre Strong, and I'm excited to see what Pierre Strong does this year. I don't know if he's going to take a back seat with James Robinson coming in, but I'm excited to see what Pierre Strong does, because I think he showed some flashes last year that he has that straight line breakaway speed. He's very elusive. He can have some shiftiness to him. So, but I agree, get a bowling ball running back here that can kind of serve as that third down goal line type of back that can, punch it in from wherever you're at.
Right.
So we'll take Chris Rodriguez. That leaves us with 2 more picks. McClendon Curtis is a guy. Could you imagine them pairing him and Cole Strange together on the left side?
Right.
Patriots fans might have a fit right there. So, well, we're only down to 2 more picks, 210, 245. One thing that I don't think New England has addressed yet that I feel like at one point they're going to address is interior defensive line. Bolstering that up. You got Barmore. Do you think that this is a spot that they look to take a bigger bodied guy that can maybe serve? Because Barmore is more of the twitchy, physical, or gifted athletically. Do they take a bigger bodied guy that can be a run stopper?
Like a nose tackle? Yeah. So I think we might have missed that group. Like maybe DJ Dale.
Yeah. DJ Dale's the one I had on the top of my head from Alabama.
Yeah. The other things I'd see here, I mean, we can look at wide receiver again. It's the same group.
The only guy that went was, who was it? Demas from Maryland.
They're probably less likely to take quarterback now that they've signed Trace McSorley. I could see, who's their tackle? I could see him doubling up a tackle or taking an interior offensive line. Well, I guess we already took Kirkland, right?
Yeah, we took Kirkland. So Luke Haggard, I've mocked a lot from Indiana. I know you guys took TJ Bass. He was a JUCO guy that had a very good year this year for Oregon. So I know that there's a couple guys there that would
Connor
fit.
Galvin's another one. Connor Galvin played for them at the Shrine Bowl. He was one. It wasn't a great offensive line group at the Shrine Bowl, but Galvin, this is a little bit late for him, but was one of the better tackles. Kind of reminds me of a Nate Solder type. He's like you missed on Blake Freeland. He's your discount Blake Freeland.
I love Blake Freeland too. I'm from Utah. I've grew up with that guy in high school. He was a high school quarterback. Like the dude was 220 pounds as a high school quarterback, and then he just went to BYU and he kept that athleticism with.
Right. Well, he played tight end at one point too, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So,
I think he started at tight end at BYU. He just kept gaining all the weight and had all that athleticism. They're like, we'll just put you at tackle. You're, a freak. So
if you like that kind of player, and we maybe, and they're adding athletic tackles, right? We've drafted Broderick Jones. Connor Galvin would make sense if they're going to double up a tackle. That would be a logical pick.
Yeah, and I don't think Riley Reif, obviously his age, he's 34.
Right.
He was on it. He signed a 1-year contract. Was it 1 or 2? So
it was a 1.
I mean, yeah, maybe he's gonna start a couple games for us if we have some injuries, but you can't bank on him, especially past this year. Yeah. So you take a guy late like Galvin that's athletic.
Well,
young.
Except hang on though. So Galvin's a left tackle, and we took Broderick Jones, who's a left tackle.
Strictly left tackles.
Right. So if we're looking for somebody to maybe replace Reif, I think the guy you look at is from Arkansas, Dalton. Scroll down a little bit. He's there. I saw
Wagner.
Dalton Wagner. This dude is massive. 6'8". He's not 320. He's closer to 340. Yeah. And I got to talk to him at the Shrine Bowl, and he told me that his goal that week and throughout the pre-draft process was he wins by being bigger than everybody else, and he wants to get more technically skilled. That's a guy they can coach up and they can turn into something. So if the idea is, all right, well, we've got insurance for Trent Brown and Broderick Jones, now we want insurance for Riley Reif, Dalton Wagner makes more sense than a guy like Connor Galvin.
Well, and I think it makes sense too. You look who they draft late last year, a tackle out of Michigan, right? Andrew Stuber.
Right. Yeah.
Or was it Austin? It's Andrew, right?
Andrew
Stuber. Yeah. Big old dude that, lacks some athleticism, but a freaking mountain, and who knows what he's going to be. So I think it makes sense to take one of these bigger guys that can slide into a right tackle spot across from Broderick Jones in this mock, where we taken, maybe he pans out to be something because of his size, but maybe he doesn't. Trent Brown was a late round pick, I believe. So, you take guys like this and they can be developed and can turn into something. So I'll take Wagner here. We'll let it roll to 245 and see. A lot of people will probably want a receiver right here.
Yeah, I think who makes it as a quarterback, right? Although, I don't know with McSorley. Like Trace McSorley shouldn't change anything because he's Trace McSorley, but he probably will.
So
great song though.
Yeah, that was a good song. I still hear little kids running around with it. It's kind of annoying. Now he's on our team. So, but anyways, look at receiver. I mean, I know I saw Puka Nacua go. I saw a couple other ones. Jake Bobo went. So guys here that entice you: Darius Davis, speedster, super small though. I don't think that they want to take a guy like that. Anyone else that kind of you mentioned Grant DeBose? You think he's a Patriot pick?
Yeah, he is. He's one of these just like do everything receiver. He's not an X. He's not a slot. He's not, a bird. He just does everything well. He's just a well-rounded player. Had good production last year. I like him for them. Yeah, I could see them taking him.
And at this point, there's not those big name guys down there. I mean, Trey Nixon 2 years ago, you take, or 3 years ago, whenever it was in the 7th round, you take a receiver like this. Is a guy that has experience doing a ton of different things for Charlotte. Lining up, making a ton of catches, pretty productive at his level. So I don't know if there's anyone else down here that's better than him. I'm trying to scroll through, but Grant DeBose is probably the most notable one here. And I don't think any Patriots fans are expecting New England to hit on a 7th round receiver, but if they do, then bonus to them. But so draft him, wrap it up, let it roll, and then we'll show you guys the final board right here. See what PFF gives us. Probably like a C. They always screw people. But we'll start at the top. PFF for those
grades are so bad.
Yeah. I mean, like I get it, right? They had Keely Ringo. They said that his ADP was in the 60s. I get it, right? A lot of people are down on him. His upside, his what he does and what he has done at Georgia, although he's been inconsistent, he's every bit worth of the 39th overall pick in the 2nd round if he turns out to be what people have projected him to be. Now that's a big if, but that's a huge risk that you're taking. And if he turns out to be like that, you're probably getting a 1st round talent cornerback in the 2nd round.
I'll say this in about the grades too. Like I remember last year I took Marcus Jones at 85. It gave me a D. Patriots took Marcus Jones at 85 this year. Was it a D? No. So when we do our mocks, I cover up the grades because I want people to learn the players and form their own opinions. And this is part of the reason why.
For sure. Carlos says D winners F LOL. Yeah. It's, I mean, Byron Young is a C pick at 82. Again, they might think that if you're a Patriots fan, you're getting a guy that's experienced right now. That's going to probably be a day 1 starter. Kuntz at a D minus. Yeah. I mean, to me, yeah, I agree with you. Kirkland, who was a huge, let down last year just because of his injury and could have been in the NFL. They give us a D+ for that, for taking a guy that was all Pac-12 at tackle. Now he's a 6'7" guard. Yeah, some of the grades are a little head scratching, but if you had to grade this, obviously you say you cover up the grades. If you had to grade this and off of some of the other mocks you've done, what do you like that we did differently, or what do you think you could have done differently that would have made this a little better?
So this, to me, Bill Belichick believes Matt Groh is the best. Like they went Broderick Jones upside, Keely Ringo upside, Zach Kuntz upside, D Winters upside. They are drafting for ceiling. They are drafting guys. They trust that, this is it. when I say Matt Groh, the other thing is the coaching staff. They just pumped all this money to rebuild the coaching staff.
Yep.
And they're drafting guys that the draft evaluation is basically, if you coach them up right, they'll be stars, but they need to be coached up. So if we walked away from this, it would tell me they really believe in this new coaching staff. The new coaching staff has a lot of say. They believe they're going to be able to develop these guys quickly. That's what it would tell me. And I love the upside of it. I do, but you got to maximize it. They've struggled to maximize upside in the draft the last couple of years. It's a scary draft. It's scary because if these guys don't I think Broderick Jones will hit. He's an upside player, but he'll hit.
Yeah.
Keely Ringo, 50-50 player. Zach Kuntz, 50-50 player. Byron Young is the one high floor, low ceiling guy we have. Zach Kuntz, 50-50. D Winters is an upside pick. Grant DuBose is kind of, you're taking a shot. You're taking a lot of chances here. And if they pay off, this is going to be a great draft because Broderick Jones upside, all pro. Keely Ringo upside, all pro, maybe defensive player of the year. Zach Kuntz upside, all pro, potential 800-yard receiver at the tight end position. I think Jackson Kirkland's all pro, upside, not as an all pro, but as a starting caliber offensive lineman. D Winters, true upside, is a guy like Fred Warner. I don't know that he gets quite that good, but that's the kind of player you're talking about. You maximize this draft, you're in great shape. You just have to maximize it.
You do. And I think that's been the one concern for me the last couple years coming out of the draft is what has New England done wrong in the development process? Because you've seen so many picks that have just not panned out that had an opportunity to. So is our wide receiver coach, is our development staff that bad at developing wide receivers? Are we just that good at developing cornerbacks? I don't know the answer to that, but you bring in a ton of new coaches. Adrian Clem, I think, would have a very, very good opportunity to develop Broderick Jones, Jackson Kirkland, and then the Arkansas guy, I forget his name, Dalton Wagner, right? He has an opportunity to develop those guys. You have tight ends coach that would be able to develop Zach Kuntz. Plus, you're going to have a very tight end friendly offensive coordinator calling plays to him. He's going to have every chance to succeed in this offense. If he doesn't, then it's on New England. So I think that's been my one concern, and I'm interested to see where they value. Do they want to take these safe players, or do they want to take these guys that in 2 to 3 years with the right development could really be stars in the NFL and could be a historic class if they hit on some of these guys? If this was a draft class and they hit on these guys, you'd look back in 3 or 4 years and you'd be like, how the heck did they get those guys at where they did?
We would say this is where it all turned around.
Yeah, for sure. Especially after the last 3 years of drafting, you look at the class with N'Keal Harry, Jawan Williams. Those have been historically bad classes. If this one hits, now it could either be historically bad like the N'Keal Harry ones, or it could be historically good if they all hit.
Yeah, so I think they've drafted very safely the last couple of years. I don't think that's a trend. I think they've been gun shy.
Yeah,
I think after 2019, they wanted some safer picks. They're due to break out of that, and that's what this would be.
And I get it. I would be gun shy too if I missed on if I was the guy drafting, if I'm Matt Groh and I'm drafting some of these guys and you're taking a lot of heat for the N'Keal Harry pick, Jawan Williams, guys like that. I get why they're gung ho, but in the NFL, it's about the future. What are these guys going to be in 3 or 4 years? And that's kind of what makes the draft so interesting is you have to project too. You have to project. You can't take guys. There's been so many guys that have come out that you're like, oh, this guy was a great college player, but what's he going to be in the NFL? He's probably maxed out right now. Keely Ringo could be one of the best corners we've seen just off of traits alone if you max him out. He has not hit that ceiling yet. He hasn't had the consistency. You get that out of him, he hasn't hit his ceiling yet, and he's been scary good at Georgia outside of his inconsistency. So there's a lot of projection in the NFL draft that I think New England's missed on the last couple of years also.
Right.
So,
I'd agree with that.
Well, Alex, I appreciate you coming on. I know this was your second one today. I mean, you're in the grind mode, and we're officially 15 days away, right? 14 tomorrow, or is it 14 today?
I'm always bad at counting days because you count the day you're on, you count the day it counts.
True.
2 weeks from tonight, 2 weeks from right now, we'll probably have a good idea of what the Patriots are going to do. The board will be developing in real time, so
that will be exciting.
We're getting there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on, guys. Make sure you follow Alex on Twitter, Instagram, and then the Patriots Beat podcast. Watch the Catch 22 on the Patriots YouTube channel. Listen to it. Appreciate you coming on. This was great. Super fun to have you filling in for Cole while I was sick, and hope the rest of your mock drafts go well, and New England gets the guys that we want. I gotta ask. I had this question in mind, and I've totally forgot to ask you. I had a pretty crazy reaction when they took Cole Strange, like I'm sure a lot of Patriots fans were. Who's one player or what's one position that you would have kind of a Cole Strange reaction to if they took at pick 14?
Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid.
A tight end. It would be a tight end.
If they take Darnell Washington, I can kind of sort of, I wouldn't love it at that point. I'm like, man, just trade back. But
yeah,
if they take one of those other tight ends, or if somehow Will Levis falls,
quarterback.
Well, look, if like Anthony Richardson falls, fine. Like the guy's unreal, but I don't think Will Levis is that good. I think he's wildly overrated. I don't think he's going to fall because NFL teams are dumb. There was a report today that the Colts think he's better than Richardson. Good luck with that. That's why the Colts are the Colts. Yeah. But yeah, every time we do, Mayer at 14 or Kincaid at 14, I'm just like, it doesn't make them a better team. Cringe. I don't see how they're really any different a team with either of those guys in 2023, maybe down the road, but I don't see how either of those guys make them a better team in 2023 than if they pick a tackle or a corner or a receiver or an edge rusher.
Yeah, I agree. My Mayer and Kincaid, great players, but I don't know if that's the way to go this year, especially in the first round. So I agree, but no, I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed this. Again, follow him on all socials, follow us on all of our socials, hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date, and then like the video. But until next time, we will talk to you guys later.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.